Baba knows the way. For Joseph Baba Ifa, Baba knows the way. We follow the signs. He walks with the 𝘃𝗶𝗱𝗲 through sacred lines. He speaks with the ancients. He honors the drum. He carries the wisdom where we all come from.
Hey family, thank you for tuning in to Our Roots podcast with Joseph Baba Ifa. We're only the strongest roots see the light, brought to you by 𝘃𝗶𝗶𝗶 candles and more. And if you haven't done it yet, hit that subscribe button. What's up, Phil?
Hey, what is going on? Happy Sunday, everybody.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I missed the horns.
Well, I actually am trying to hit the button, but my finger got in the way.
Oh man.
Here we go.
Yes. Now I'm in the zone for sure.
There
How
we
are you,
go.
brother? Everything good?
Yeah, life is good. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Yeah, I'm not sure. We're going. This is the recording session where we went live and stuff like that. But Happy New Year once again, guys. Happy 2026, you know.
Yeah.
Really excited about today's episode. Ifa and dreams, right? You know, every time we come into a new year, we have resolutions and aspirations and things like that. So dream big, right? So I don't sleep much, so I don't dream much. I know that when I do get a chance, you know, they are pretty vivid. How about you, Phil? Are you a dreamer?
It's so crazy with me because I dream a lot, but
Nice.
I feel that my dreams don't make any sense. Like I'll have consistent dreams about zombies. It could be dinosaurs,
Okay.
or I could be like super parkour agility guy running from something, and I can get away from everything.
That's really wild you mentioned that about recurring dreams and whatnot, because apart from the Odus and things that we're going to go over, kind of going over, you know, interpretation, recurring dreams, some of the dreams that I had, I think some of the biggest decisions I actually ever made in my life were based off of a dream. And there's a really crucial one, actually.
Really?
Yeah, I remember I had just gotten 𝘃𝗶𝗶𝗶 done, right? I was going through my 𝘃𝗶𝗹𝗁, my year in white, me and mom. And, you know, back then, you know, my responsibilities were less, so I used to nap in the middle of the day or wake up in the afternoon. And I was like, I'm tired. But, you know, it was like a non-parent tired. So you think you're tired, but you don't know what tired is until you possibly make some people.
Right.
And I fell asleep. And I'll never forget, I was in the dream and I was climbing a mountain with my father. And I was like, yo, what are we doing right now? And I kind of looked around. I imagined it was like, you know, the 𝘃𝗶𝗶𝗶𝗃 or anything. Whatever mountain range was just very intimidating. I'm like, what are we doing, you know? And we were going up this mountain, and, you know, we were in full, like, mountain gear and stuff like that. And we get to, I guess, the apex, right? And when we get there, there's, like, an entrance into a cave, right? And I look at Dad. I said, Dad, let's go in there and see what resources we can find, because we've been climbing this whole time and all these other things. And he was like, I can't go with you. My journey ends here. You're meant to go forward, not me. And I looked at him and I said, I don't want to go without you. You know what I'm saying? We did this together. He's like, no, I was just meant to get you here.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh man. So, you know, I respected his wishes and I walked into the darkness, right? And I remember when I walked into the cave, I saw things that were about Ifa, right? Like I saw green and yellow necklaces. I saw the tray of Ifa, the horsetail, the deer horn, all the things that we use in the 𝘃𝗶𝗶𝗶 practice. And I remember just looking around and being so fascinated. I'm like, bro, this is like the Cave of Wonders, right, from Aladdin. And I remember at that point I woke up. And when I woke up, it was one of those things where I was sleeping face up and I was staring at the ceiling, but I couldn't feel like I could really hear anything. But I heard a voice say, sell your car. And I was like, man, this is so weird, man. And I kind of just sat in my room. My mother didn't even know I was awake. My grandmother didn't even know I was awake. And I was just sitting there and I'm like, what does this all mean? And then, you know, I started trying to put things together and piece it together. And I said, yo, I'm going to sell my car and use the money to do Ifa, right? Because I actually had been gifted a car by my dad, ironically. It was a brand new Toyota Corolla S. I'll never forget it. I used to drive Uber in it when I was going through my year in white. And I remember I left my room and I went up to my mother. I was 22 at the time. And I said, Mom, I'm going to sell the brand new car that Dad got me to pay Ifa to do Ifa. And mom looked at me. She was watching Law and Order, and she flipped out. She was like,
"What?"
She was like, "Yo, we just spent all this money to do Santo. You said you were gonna chill out for a little bit, this, that, and the third." And I said, "Ma, I just had this dream. I just appraised the car. You know what I'm saying? It goes for like 10 racks or something like that. Padrino told me this much for the IFA. I could come up with the rest. And, I'll buy you a car." And I had it all mapped out within like 2 hours. So she's just looking at me, and my grandmother's like, "He lost his mind." And I'll never forget, man, like 2 weeks later, I actually drove down to Miami to show the car to a guy that I was advertising it to on Craigslist.
Oh, Craigslist.
He was a veteran. Yeah. I think he was a Marine or something like that. Met him, met his father. They drove the car around. He was looking for a vehicle for his wife. Now that he was stationed and things like that. We went to the bank. We did the wire. We did the registration, all these different things. And the ironic part about it is the Bank of America, where we met up at, was around the corner from my godfather's house. And I looked at them and I said, you guys have been so kind to me. This has been possibly the smoothest transaction of my life. Not that I had many before then. And I said, "Could you please do me the favor of dropping me off at my godfather's house 5 minutes from here?" And they looked at me and they said, "Yeah, sure." So I hopped in their trunk. And they dropped me off, and I never saw them again. And I remember I walked up to my godfather's door, and I knocked on the door. He was not expecting me at all. He didn't know I was there. Ironically, now I was without a vehicle. And when he opened the door, his eyes were like owls. Like, he was like, "What are you doing here?" And I just handed him a fat white envelope, and I said, "I'm doing IFA." And he looked at me. He's like, "Oh, are you misbehaving again? I told you." And I said, "I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm not misbehaving. But I'm ready." And I remember that night we put the date. It was flawless. It was completely flawless. I think that happened when I was 10 months into Ochung. And I finished my yaworaje in October, right? And then I did IFA in December. Like, my IFA birthday just passed in December. Wow. So all of that just based off of a dream. So the reason I open up with that is because I still get emotional about that till this day, because sometimes we don't realize a lot of the information that we need as human beings is within us, ingrained already. Dreams are so important and so huge. I mean, when we talk about a process such as sleep, right, where we're able to relax, where our spirit separates from our body, being that our body needs rest, but not the spirit, and we're able to delve into our subconscious, right, and have that cerebral fluid flush that occurs every evening, ideally. There's so many key things there that we could glean from to be able to get real information that could have a life-changing effect on us, like with myself. When we talk about dreams, it really goes all the way back to the dawn of creation, right? Whether it's the universe or whether it's our personal process. So dreams are mentioned as early in the corpus as 𝗵𝗸𝗶𝗍, which is the first Odu of Ifa, where some people say that all of existence is nothing more than Olodumare's subconscious, that this isn't even reality. We are living in his dream, right? His creative fantasy, right? And they say that reality doesn't occur until we transition and we're able to enter into our true residence, which is Araurung, right, or heaven. They say that we're in the marketplace right now, that Earth is nothing more than a large marketplace. This concept is in the 𝗿𝗶𝗹𝗁 once again, when you see the phrase, about the marketplace of 𝗃𝗵𝗵𝗁, which is seen as the border between heaven and earth. So possibly none of this is real right now. I mean, obviously we feel pain, all these different things, but these are also things that we feel when we're dreaming, right? So it really makes you wonder, how far in the zeitgeist are we?
Yeah.
There's that concept, right? And then when we talk about our ceremonial process, whether it's any of the things that we go through, all of them are born from a dream. When we go back to the Odu of Baba Ifa once again, we speak of a gentleman known as Oduduwa, right? And Oduduwa was actually a gentleman from Benin, right? Whether you look at it as the country or the city-state, whichever of the two. But his name was 𝗃𝗶𝗱𝗏, right? Or 𝗃𝗶𝗱𝗏, right? However you want to pronounce it. And he was actually the illegitimate son of one of the last sky kings over there. So he had to run because they didn't want to give him the throne and they were going to kill him to reestablish a new line. So he started running from the east to the west, right? So along this journey, obviously he would get tired from time to time and he would fall asleep. And he would see visions of people performing processes to him that he had never heard of or seen before. So when he did arrive in a land where people, were present, they kneeled to him. And he said, "Why are you kneeling to me?" And they said, "Well, we just did divination with our oracle. And it said that the next gentleman that came from the east with certain features such as yours, we were meant to crown him." And he said, "Oh." But they said, "We don't know how to crown anybody. We've never had a king. We're kind of disorganized, And he said, "Well, I don't know anything about a crowning process. My father was a king. I wasn't there for that. But I have been having dreams. And, a lot of the processes I'm seeing, they focus around the head, So if a crown sits on the head, I might have some ideas for you, Then they said, "Well, let's get started." And they did that process to him. And now we have ceremonial initiatory process based off of dreams, right? So our whole religion is the result of a dream. So when Erica came up with this idea, I was really pleased because there's a bunch of beautiful pataki and 𝘃𝗶𝗱𝗏 that speak of dreams, right? When you look at the Odu of 𝗹𝗶𝗸𝗏 or 𝗹𝗶𝗸𝗲𝗏, right? It speaks of the formation or construction of ori, right? Where in 𝗹𝗶𝗸𝗏, Ogun and Odudua construct the body from the neck to the toes out of clay and iron. And then that headless body is thrust into the house of a gentleman known as 𝗹𝗶𝗸𝗏, right? 𝗹𝗶𝗸𝗏 is the constructor of heads. He's a gentleman that lives in this mudden hut, basically. And when you walk in, it's one of those things, Phil, like it's a little house, but when you walk in, it's like a huge house.
Yeah.
I forgot what movie. I'm sure there's a bunch. But, and he just has millions and billions of heads just sitting around. That's all he does all day is mold heads out of clay, all day. He's a potter. So when we talk about the formation of the head, different ingredients and things like that go in it, forming different destinies and whatnot. But all of them have the capacity of dreaming, because when you look at the word ayala, the word Allah is in it, right? And also in the word 𝗹𝗶𝗸𝗏, the word Allah is in it. It makes reference to dreams. The word Allah means dream, right? So 𝗹𝗶𝗸𝗏 is actually, a lot of people say the king of the white cloth, right? 𝗹𝗶𝗸𝗏. But Allah is also dream, so it's also the king that dreams. And ironically, you usually dream under what? A white cloth or a blanket, right? So all of those themes are present. And the blanket is also in the Odu 𝗹𝗶𝗸𝗏, which speaks of the marketplace like we did earlier. So it's very important to pay attention to all aspects of the mind, even the ones that we're not in contact with when we're conscious, right? Because they say that our day really starts when we sleep. When we talk about from a spiritual standpoint, being that our body needs rest and our soul does not, it's one of the first moments throughout the day for a prolonged period of time where your spirit or your yo is able to disconnect or separate from your body without fully disconnecting, because then we're not here anymore, and be able to travel and not be restricted to the confines of the flesh. So a lot of what we're seeing in dreams is reality. But being that we are three-dimensional and we're tangible and everything, has to be, logical and whatnot, it's difficult to discern. So one of the first forms of divination, if not the first, was dream interpretation. Being somebody that was always interested in spirituality and somebody that didn't have the funds for Orisha or Ifa initially, and someone who was quite a dreamer in my youth when I would have time to sleep, it was something that I really wanted to understand, because I would have these wild dreams, Phil, like wild ones. Like apart from the dream that I mentioned, I had a really wild reoccurring one. Yeah. And it usually revolved around certain animals. Like I was being eaten by a leopard, or I was being devoured by a crocodile.
Oh my gosh.
Like I noticed that I was being attacked a lot. And there was another one where I was, and this is pretty common with a lot of people, was where I was falling out of a building or falling out of the sky. And I would wake up right before I'd hit the ground. So all of this was very confusing to me. And I'll go over like the different ways I would interpret and things like that. But when we delve into dream interpretation, we have to delve into my own Odu, right? And the Odu of 𝗃𝗶𝗱𝗏 or 𝘄cie𝘂𝗂𝗋𝗃 is actually where the interpretation of things manifested. But the first thing that was interpreted from an esoteric spiritual standpoint was dreams. So Olodumare held a council, and he invited all the Babalaos to come to be able to answer questions for him, because he would find himself in profound thought. And there were even aspects of Ifa that he didn't fully understand, even though he created it and it was his voice, which is really ironic to think that God doesn't fully understand himself. Another ironic thing people don't want to accept is we're really here just to enjoy ourselves and treat each other well. There's really no other reason for us. We don't necessarily benefit the ecosystem. Eyobe says that Olodumare was lonely and he wanted to, have someone to interact with and be entertained and not be alone. That's kind of where the Orishas come from and things like that as well, to be able to handle things for him. Some people say that Olodumare is sleeping right now, and that's why we have the Orishas and we pray to them instead of to him directly. So neither here nor there, he was going through a moment of introspection, and he invited the Babalaos to help clarify some things about his own voice, or Ifa. So when they got there, he asked all of them one singular question. He said, "What is the world?" And all of them gave their different answers, right? Oh, the world is this, the world is that. But he was dissatisfied. He was like, none of you are really giving me that answer that I need to be able to move forward or feel confident with what I've accomplished, and I really don't want to erase everything and start again, even though he's done that a couple times via flood. And he said, is anyone missing? So there were 255 Babalaos there, and the only one that was missing was 𝗃𝗶𝗃𝗏 or 𝗃𝗶𝗃𝗂𝗃. And he said, well, why isn't he here? And the other Babalaos didn't want to say it, but they actually didn't invite him because they were worried about his interpretive skill, because he was a very wise Babalao. So he said, okay, no one knows why he's not here, then let's go to him. Take me to his home. So they started heading towards his house. So 𝗃𝗶𝗃𝗂𝗃 in this Pataki, his name was Ifa Kamnanche, which means whatever Ifa says will happen. And he was a potter. Once again, the pottery is a very strong theme within Ifa. It makes reference to the clay, and they say that clay is what really forms our body. And they say, not to be too crude, but if you ever look at gray matter within the brain, it kind of looks like clay. It's basically fat, right? So when he was at home, he would be working all day and making his pottery and selling it and things like that. Kind of like Ayala, the constructor of heads, would. And he would fall asleep. This is the Odu of narcolepsy. So if you guys ever see me tired or whatever, I'm tired. But so he fell asleep and he had this wild dream. And he saw three things. The first thing he saw was Eshu come into his home and take paint and smear it on the inside of the bowl that he was constructing. The next person that came in was Shango. And Shango came and threw a lightning bolt into the bowl. And the third person to come in was Olofin, or Olodumare. And he basically sat down and used the bowl as a toilet bowl.
Oh.
So at that moment, he heard a knock, right? And he woke up and he went to the door and he said, who is it? He said, Olodumare. And when he opened the door, it was Olodumare and his 255 siblings. And he said, oh, hello, brothers. It's been so long. And Olodumare said, you don't accept invites? He said, I didn't know I was invited to anything. He said, no, I had the council and you weren't there. And he's like, I didn't know. No one told me about it. Olodumare looked at the other Babalaos like, okay, I see what's going on here. And Olodumare looked at 𝗃𝗶𝗃𝗏 and said, I have a question for you. I hope you can answer it for me. And 𝗃𝗶𝗃𝗏 said, I will do my best. And he said, what is the world? And 𝗃𝗶𝗃𝗏 looked at Olodumare and he said, man, I don't know what rabbit hole to pull this answer out of. Really? But he remembered his dream. And when he looked at the bowl, all of the things that were in the dream were now in the bowl. And he said, Father, the world is whatever is in that bowl. And when Olodumare looked in the bowl, he said, my son, you're right. The world is crap. And, yeah. And Olodumare was very pleased. He was very pleased. He said, this is a perfect depiction of the world. Some parts of it are beautiful. Some parts of it are ugly. But at the end of the day, it's a circus and it's wild and we'll never fully understand it. And he was very pleased with 𝗃𝗏𝗃𝗃, and he said, your blessing will be that of interpretation. You will be the interpreter of Ifa. You will be the person who's able to get this information and dissect it and regurgitate it in a way where people are able to digest it. And 𝗃𝗏𝗃𝗃 was like, man, I'm just a potter. He's like, not anymore. And 𝗃𝗏𝗃𝗃 ordered 𝗃𝗏𝗃𝗃 to leave the fields and the pottery and things like that and to go be his personal babalao. So 𝗃𝗏𝗃𝗃's job after that every day was to wake up and consult 𝗃𝗏𝗃𝗃. Like 𝗃𝗏𝗃𝗃 is awo 𝗃𝗏𝗃𝗃 or awo 𝗃𝗏𝗃, right? So all from a dream. So when we interpret this Pataki, Ifa says that even 𝗃𝗏𝗃𝗃, even the orishas, even us as beings, the first form of divination from a very bombastic standpoint was dream interpretation. And it literally changed 𝗃𝗏𝗃𝗃's life. So when I look at my own parallels, and after I pulled that Odu, and realizing that the leopard was in my sign, that the reptiles were in my sign, that, 𝗃𝗏𝗃𝗃 fell from heaven, right? And, got caught on the back of a vulture who saved his life. Ironically, I'm a son of 𝗃𝗏𝗃𝗃. Like, all of these things started lining up to me. And then I also remembered the story of the dream that I had with my father, right? And realizing that that dream was a message to motivate me and spur me into action to make it into the room, and thus pulling that sign really confirmed all of that. So just really speaks of the importance of this aspect of our spirituality, because a lot of people say, no, dream interpretation and things like that is espiritismo, spiritism, where it has huge spiritual connotations because it's literally a reflection of what our spirit is doing when we're asleep. So yes, it does fall within that domain as well, but it descends from Ifa innately because Ifa is nothing more than a reenacted dream over and over again to get the right results.
Do you have any tips for people who, like, let's say someone like me? A lot of my dreams are all over the place. How can somebody like me retain or remember these things? Because a lot of the times, as soon as I wake up, they're gone.
Absolutely, because the flush happens and things like that. And you also have to recall that there's a fluid within us known as 𝗃𝗏𝗹𝗁, which is the water of forgetfulness, right? That's why we can't remember our past lives and things like that until we get back to Ifa. So that's perfectly understandable. There's a couple different things you can incorporate. And I learned a lot of this in espiritismo with my godmother as well as now with my wife. Really common things you could do. A glass of water under the bed or by the bed is great because it helps capture them. Dream catchers as well, even though they're not innately Afro-descendant, the concept is really productive, with the indigenous population of North America. Having a journal, right, and writing down whatever you feel comfortable with is huge, because if you really want to recall them, you have to write them down as soon as you wake up, because if not, remember that once our soul is back within our body, right, and it's not just connected by that ethereal cord, yeah, that's gone. That recollection is gone. That celestial, day is gone. So now, mind you, and I've had situations like this where I'm like, man, that was a really important dream, but I don't remember it. And then somehow throughout the day, someone will say something. I'll be like, yo, I dreamt about this, that, and the third last night. So at the end of the day, if it's meant to be remembered, it will. But if you want to take a little more control of that process, definitely have to start writing them down. And for any budding espiritista or anybody who has that level of mediumship, because dream work is mediumship, right? You can get messages through there. I actually had another really impactful dream. I'll never forget it, man. I was actually in Africa, right? And I was like on the savannah, Serengeti, I don't know, like the plains, right? Where there's like a tree and a bunch of tall grass. Mm-hmm. And I'm like there. And I'm like, man, this is wild, man. And, when I look to the side, I see these guys coming to kill me. And, they're looking like cannibals or whatever it's going to be. They're going to consume me. And I'm like, all right, I'm dead. And then out of nowhere, I look to the left and I see this army of 𝗃𝗏𝗃𝗃s come out, right? The 𝗃𝗏𝗃𝗃 is the leopard society in Cuba where they dress up as the 𝗃𝗏𝗃𝗃 and stuff like that. Like, imagine 1,000 of those guys. And I remember, like, they were like, come with us. And they gave me a weapon and stuff like that. And we went and we killed all these other guys. And I'll never forget, it was a very emotional dream because, they were talking to me and things like that. And they were telling me things that I've utilized through my whole life, And I there's other dreams that I've had where, I've been in like the Congo and like I've interacted with like priests and things like that. You know, I don't know if they're ancestors, I don't know what it is, but they were showing me markings and 𝗃𝗲𝗍 and stuff like that. And they were like, hey, if you ever have this issue, this is the one you need to use, or this. So things that are very, very, very important that till this day have had an influence and an effect on my life. And ironically, when I did my ancestry and things like that, I came back with 𝘃𝗶𝗱𝗍 blood, 𝗵𝗶𝗍 blood, like from those parts of Africa that have to do with these specific clans. So I think part of dreams are, you know, inspiration, but also it could be past lives. It can be a way for our ancestors to communicate with us or just get the information we need overall. But then we get into the interpretive aspect of things, right? Mm-hmm. You had a pretty impactful dream recently.
Yeah, it was New Year's night.
Wow.
Right? So as you guys probably don't know, or if some of you do, if you guys have been following the channel for a while, my father passed away in January of 2021.
Yeah, bless you.
He had COVID, recovered, then died 3 weeks later from a heart attack. Yeah. Right? Talked to him every day, one of my best friends. He came to me in my dream New Year's night. So I was sleeping New Year's night, and the dream that I had, he was there, and this was over a course of like multiple scenes. So he was there physically. Like I'm talking to Joseph right here, right? The first scene I remember, we were at the funeral home. He was in the casket, but he was also standing next to me. And I'm like, well, how are you here if you're in there? And I don't remember a lot of the context of our conversation, but I remember it transitioning back to here in the studio. And I was giving him a tour of the studio and kind of showing him what he's missed. And I remember him telling me that he was like proud of me and stuff.
Yeah, that's a beautiful encounter, man. And some of them are just that straightforward where, you know, one thing I recommend for people always when you're interpreting anything is you have to let go of the constraints of Western thinking, where A is B is C. You know, whether it's interpreting Ifa or something like this, I always tell people you have to let go and understand that things are not linear here. You know, it could be B, G, F, you know? Yeah. So with a situation like what you saw with Dad, it's interesting. He made it very clear to show you the dichotomy between the body and the soul, you know, where it would lead me to believe, hey, you know, it was a traumatic thing. We lost somebody that was really important to us, but one aspect of them, you know, is in the casket, but the other aspect is spiritual and always with us. So that might be a lasting message he wanted to give you, that, you know, I'm always right there. And I remember when I actually saw his spirit at the 𝗃𝗶𝗍𝗲 one time and I described him to you and you're like, yo, that's my dad, you know? So that was wild too. And then, you know, just, the fact that, you know, you guys were together here in the studio and things like that. And he had such a big role in your progress, you know, within production and, you know, radio and all the different things that you're involved in, and ultimately podcasting. He's still here, you know, and he still wants to be a part of it. And, you know, me and Erica always joke that you have a spirit that tells you which shorts to make, because somehow it always applies to somebody that day. So we we think you have a gift that day. I'm not sure if you noticed, on every short, someone will be like, man, I was just thinking about this today. And we'll be like, there goes Phil again. You know what I'm saying? So just the perks you add that aren't listed in the contract. Cool. So, you know, we appreciate it. And
that's cool.
Erica too, man. Erica, she's a dreamer, and she had a really incredible dream a year after her father passed away, you know. I didn't get the pleasure or honor of meeting my father-in-law. And it's one of the things that bothers me a bit. You know, there's a few great men that I never had a chance to shake their hand or give them a hug, and he's one of them. You know, people like my grandfather, Rafael, as well. I never got a chance to meet him. And you hear about these men and how they were larger than life, and they were just providers and there for their family, and they were loved, you know? Yeah. And he's really a huge reason, or the reason, why me and Erica are together, because I actually met Erica working her father's funeral rites, or his honras, right? So
really,
yeah. And I remember as we're in our relationship and we're getting to know each other more, she reveals to me that a year after he passed away, she had a dream on his death anniversary, and he came to her and he basically walked her through heaven. And, you know, he was like, this is the different plane, you know, there's no pain here, it's wonderful here. You know, you guys are actually on the most underdeveloped plane, you know, where people, it's like heaven looks at our 3-dimensional plane as as not necessarily purgatory, but this is like probation. Like, we're here to get better. Like, this is not the end all, you know. Heaven is right here and hell is right here. We can experience happiness and sadness, but ultimately we're here to get better, because if we're going through all this pain and all these struggles, it's because we have things to work out in our character, so that when we do transition into energy, we're able to elevate. You know, I have this new joke where I say, you know, at this point within my career within Ifa, or as a man in this world, I'm just trying to build my resume to become a celestial 𝗹𝗶𝗶𝗶. Like, I really just want to stay in heaven and study Ifa and, like, you know, maybe do 𝗹𝗶𝗸𝗲𝗏𝗃𝗃𝗃. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm thinking about the future at this point, apart from what we got going on down here. Because that's really the goal, is we don't want to reincarnate. We don't want to have to come back here. You know, there's a lot of, you know, enjoyable things here, but, you know, when you look at the pain that we have to go through sometimes, is it really worth it? And for me, I think not, other than parenthood, of course. And he said something that was very critical in that dream, where he said, hey, you're going to have more kids. And at that point, you know, me and Erica weren't together, and, you know, she was like, you know, I'm not having no more kids. And, you know, she met me, and we got motivated, and, you know, to have our children was quite a hurdle, you know, with fertility and things like that. And ironically, it ended up being kids, because I thought it was just going to stop with Loli, because I was like, all right, I made one, you know, thank God. And, you know, and then Robert, you know, found his way in there, Bob. And I named him after his late grandfather, you know, so it was really, really ironic, you know, and it was actually the first child within the family that actually held his name. So it was very important for me, being that he was a brother 𝗹𝗶𝗶𝗶. But once again, the impact of dreams. And, you know, everybody has these kind of stories. Everybody has those things where it's like, it's almost uncanny. You know, when we talk about dream process, who goes through it quite a bit are women, right? The woman by nature delves into the dreams quite a bit, but also, more importantly, pregnant women. When we look at the Odu and 𝗵𝗸𝗶𝗶𝗶, which is actually where maternity first manifested and all the anatomy that's necessary to be able to create and transport a life into this world, it was born there. And it speaks about Pataki, where there was a mother. It's almost like the movie 𝗃𝗵𝗵𝗃.
Oh yeah.
When the village got invaded. So there's a couple different versions, but the mother was pregnant, right? There was a woman that was pregnant, and she was at the point of conception practically. And she actually fell asleep. And in her dream, she saw a baby, and the baby looked and said, I'm your son. I'm who's in your stomach right now. I need you to get up right now and run away. Leave everybody behind that doesn't want to go with you. And she was like, well, what about your father? What about this? What about that? He said, if they want to come, they can. But if not, you need to leave right now, because as soon as you wake up, pretty immediately, they're going to try and capture all of you and kill all of you. Wow. And when she woke up, she looked at her husband and said, we need to leave right now. And he was like, oh, you're always with the, you know, the conspiracies and, you know, all these things. And she's like, I'm out of here. So she left, right? And when she started looking back, she started seeing the carnage that was ensuing. And she was able to escape, and she actually gave birth alone. And when she gave birth, it was the same baby from the dream, and she started her life in another land. Now, this is really crazy, and it hasn't just happened with us. I've spoken to other people who have experienced this phenomenon. Like, I dreamt about my daughter before we had her. Like, I saw her face, her eyes, her everything, like before the sonogram, before everything. I already knew how my kid looked. And I remember with Bobby, Erica had the same phenomenon. And even more so, my mother saw me before I was born, clear as day. So when you look at a pataki like this, and you look at the connection between fetus and mother, child and mother, how they're the same person. Where there's a study that shows that, you know, each of them takes a piece of them when they separate, right? Like, there's a piece of our mother and all of us, and there's a piece of us and all of our mothers, you know? Yeah. So, and it's to the point, even when a woman procreates with a man, she actually assimilates some of his genome to be able to pass it down to the child to come. So, you know, Erica became Cuban when she, you know, got with me. So, you know, yeah, it's a wild phenomenon, but you see it quite a bit with pregnant women, and, you know, in the Odu and 𝗵𝗵𝗶𝗶𝗃, it speaks of it very heavily. Now, the same way we speak about the positive aspect of dreams, there's also a very negative aspect, right? There's a Odu, whether it's 𝗹𝗶𝗸𝗶𝗶 and Ifa or 𝘃𝗶𝗶𝗿𝗶 in the 𝘃𝗶𝗶𝗿𝗲, it says that when there's war, the soldier does not sleep, right? So a lot of people say, well, if you're at war, someone could kill you while you're sleeping. It's not that simple. So they say that when you're sleeping, your soul leaves its protective shell. So it's vulnerable at that point. So they say that what would happen with religious warfare and things like that was it would be done at high hours or the wee hours of the morning because presumably people were sleeping. So you'd hear stories like back in Cuba and things like that of these old school brujos just staying up for days on end, just throwing brujeria at each other. And all of the nuances that we were lucky enough to learn from them, if necessary. And, you begin to realize that how crucial it is to pay attention to certain things. But there's actually a negativity within the consultation process of Ifa that's known as 𝗹𝗲𝗹𝗁 or 𝗹𝗲𝗹𝗁. So let's say somebody's in a divination, right? And an Odu is revealed, obviously, all these different things. And you start delving into the identification of the prophecy, right? So if they come 𝗹𝗶𝗸𝗶 or negative, one of the 𝗹𝗶𝗶s that can reveal itself is 𝗵, which means sickness or deterioration. And within 𝗵 comes the subcategory of the types of 𝗵 or sicknesses that you can identify. You could have 𝗵𝗶𝗶𝗿, which means a sickness of the blood, or 𝗵, any of the different things. It could be, any of the different causes. But one of the 𝗵s that can be revealed there is 𝗵 𝗪𝗚𝗃𝗃 or 𝗪𝗃𝗃, which is that of night terrors or people sending you things while you're sleeping. To the point where people found this so important that it's actually identified within the consultation process. So let's say somebody comes and they're like, yo, insomnia, I'm having night terrors, I'm seeing my family, all these different things, horrible things happening in my subconscious and my dreams. It's usually a big connotation or an indicator that, hey, we need some spiritual work done, because that's actually when we're most vulnerable, So definitely something that has to be taken into account and seriously. Another thing to pay attention to as well, as far as sleep phenomenon and, showing the importance of it, is things like sleepwalking. All of these things are not ideal, because a lot of negative things could happen while we're sleepwalking, or, even speaking while asleep, speaking in tongues and things like that while people are asleep. Movies and theater would make you believe there's some type of demonic influence there, where sometimes it's just mediumship that has not been aligned to the point where it could allow the person to have a quality of life that's productive. So all of these things are very important. You ever sleepwalk, Phil?
No, I never do that, but I have sleep talked.
Okay.
And I wanted to talk to you about something similar though. Like, so I wake up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom.
Sure.
Right. I think anybody who's about to be 40 probably does the same thing.
Right. Don't drink the water before bed.
Right. I hear things in between, because you're still kind of asleep when you're going to the bathroom,
Mm-hmm.
right? Just the other day, it wasn't the same day I had the dream about my dad, but it was literally the next day. I get up, I go to the bathroom, and I close the door. As I'm closing the door, I hear somebody say, "Hey," and it sounded like Lucia. It sounded like my wife, but she wasn't. She was in the room with Dominic.
Yeah.
I didn't look and see who said that, because I was like, I'm not paying attention, and then went back to the bathroom. So then I asked her, I was like, "Hey, were you around the room around this time?" She's like, "No." I was like, "Oh, okay, thanks."
Yeah, this definitely can be chilling. Now, it could be a couple different things that happened there. Like, it was just straight up, hey, somebody said something to you, or it could be that being that you were kind of in that in-between phase of consciousness and the opposite, it might allow you to hear things that you wouldn't usually hear if you were fully conscious, because at that point you're still tapping into the subconscious, right? Yeah. So, yeah, definitely possible. It happens for sure. And it's a huge part of our being, and it's a huge part of our well-being, more importantly said, because a lot of things come out there that, you know, we have to pay attention to. A lot of people have saved their lives off of dreams. Like, they've had visions and things like that. I think there was even people, you know, God bless the dead, from 9/11 who had a dream and they were like, yo, I'm not going into work today. Or some of them went and survived, and unfortunately some didn't. But you have this phenomenon that happens within us, where, you know, our subconscious can speak to us. You know, unfortunately, we live in such a modern time where we're taught to ignore these kind of things, right? That it's all, you know, rubbish. But, you know, it can be very influential in the right or wrong ways, depending on how we respond to them.
Do you think, this may be a little off topic, do you think that our diets kind of mess with that energy?
It can. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if you eat too much meat before bed, absolutely. Like, if your body's still working, your mind is still working. So that's why they say, you know, ideally you don't eat within 2 hours of going to bed. Fasting is ideal. All of these different things. But, you know, the one, like, for example, the nights that we've gone to, like, a 𝗃𝗏𝗃𝗍, thank you once again for the recommendation before the recording as well. You know, when I'm really stuffed with, like, a lot of protein and stuff like that, like, my dreams are wild. But then again, my body's digesting still, so the brain is very active. So another thing is, not every dream is interpretive worthy. You know, some people, you know, they're overactive dreamers as well, you know, where it's like, oh, I dreamt of dragons and unicorns and hellfire. Well, not all of that necessarily means anything. Like, there's certain key points that you want to look for that have, you know, interpretive value that we might be able to gain some information from. But sometimes a dream is just a dream. Not every dream is meant to be analyzed so in depth to the point where, you know, we're frustrated over not being able to understand it. It really depends also as well on the person's interpretation, because you could have a spiritual professional or a guide or a mentor, and you can go to them and be like, hey, I had this dream. What does it mean? Mind you, that is that person's interpretation based on their perception. But the most important one is the one you have for yourself. And it's like with Erica, with her students in Spiritism, or Orisha, or mine within Ifa, you know, people will come to me and they'll be like, Baba, this Pataki, what does it mean to you? And I'll say, well, you know, trying to be as unbiased as possible, this could symbolize this could symbolize this. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is you interpreting your Odu for you, because no one's going to be able to understand you better than you. And if we don't understand ourselves, we have to take that time and delve in, because if not, you know, we're not really living at that point.
If you're in the comments, type your wildest dream that you can remember.
That,
I want to read
within reason.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, if you want to do spicy, go ahead. I'll read it. But,
save it for the members.
But I think I was in. I think it was a psychology class in college. I don't remember exactly who.
Id, ego,
who
super
said
ego.
This. But they said that our brain or our subconscious doesn't make up faces. So if we see a face in our dream, we've seen that face before. You ever heard that?
Well, I would imagine that it might not be referring to the specific face, but aspects of the face. Because there's things I've seen in my dream where I've never actually seen that literally, but I've seen parts of it. Okay. Like, I can understand how the brain could take somebody's nose, somebody's eyebrow, and somebody's chin and somehow make something. But there's things I've seen in my dreams that I've never seen in real life, you know, faces as well, maybe outlines, maybe not as defined as like one of your iPhones, but it might be a little more interpretive there, because I mean, me personally, and maybe that's just what I'm thinking. Maybe that it happened so quick. Maybe I have seen that face, but there's things that I recall that don't seem really, really tangible, you know, like from my consciousness.
You ever watch the movie Inception?
Inception. No, that's the one with Leonardo, right?
Yeah,
man. I gotta watch it. Yeah, I've heard great things.
I think that won the Academy Award that year too. But it's
a beast.
It's about dreams.
Yeah,
but it's a very good movie. If you guys haven't seen that,
what's the basis without spoiling it?
Okay, so he is a heister. He robs people.
Nice. I mean, not nice, but
he does it. He does it by going into the Mark's dream and putting thoughts into their mind, so they think of what he wants them to do.
That's why it's called Inception. He's putting the thoughts into their mind.
Yeah,
he's an intrusive thought giver, basically.
Yeah, but it's such a fantastic movie, and it's layered perfectly. I mean, I like Leonardo DiCaprio. He's an amazing actor. But it's a great movie about dreams. If you guys haven't seen that one, watch it.
Well, I got to watch it as well. Yeah, I got to watch more TV at this stage of my life. But look at another one. We always talk about The Matrix.
That's right.
He was dreaming the whole time. The Matrix was nothing more than a dream. And I actually forgot about that when I was interpreting 𝗹𝗶𝗸𝗍. It wasn't until he was unplugged or transitioned, right, and was taken out of the Matrix or died, that he was now within reality. You know, when you look at concepts like DMT and all the things, the God molecule and, you know, the burst of light that occurs upon transition or birth, it makes you wonder, right? It really does. There's other Odus as well that speak of dreams. In the Odu and Pataki, forgive me, it speaks of when there was a king, one of the kings of Oyo, and he went into the jungle. But at this point he was the prince, so he was doing his coming to America thing, his Akim. He was, you know, he was hunting and exploring and all these different things, and he ran into this beautiful woman, and things escalated quickly, and before you know it, they were being passionate, and they actually fell asleep next to each other. Now the woman had mediumship, and when she was dreaming, she dreamt that the man she had just been with was a prince, and that her son was one day going to be the king of the land. So when she woke up, she looked at him and said, "Are you a prince?" And he was like, "Oh, heavens no." And he said, "I'm going to go get some water." Kind of like, "I'm going to go get some milk." And he never came back. And, you know, the lady had a boy, right? And she raised him. And that boy ended up actually being known as 𝗃𝗍𝗋.
Oh.
So 𝗃𝗍𝗋, by the age of 18, wanted to learn more about who his father was because he had never met him. So his mother said, "You should visit Orunmila to see, you know, how we can possibly locate him, or, you know, see if you can get any clarity whatsoever, because I haven't seen your father in 18 years. You know, I don't even know if I'd recognize him." And he went for divination. 𝗃𝗏𝗍 was revealed, where Ifa told him he needed to initiate into 𝗃𝗏𝗍. So he actually, within the process of preparing, he actually met a woman by the river. Her name was Ochung. He married her. And he went through his 𝗃𝗏𝗍 rites. And when they brought him out of the jungle into the town square to be recognized, you know, the father recognized the guy's mother. And he was like, "Oh my God, it's this lady, man." And she looked, and they kind of made eye contact, and he came up to her and he said, "I'm so sorry I abandoned you. You know, I was so afraid of how things were going to be received within the kingdom, you know, all the politics and nonsense that occur here. But is this the son you had after we were together?" And she said, "Yes." He embraced his son. He recognized him. He made him legitimate. They say that when that happened in the literature, that the earth opened up and a volcano exploded in glory and all these different things. Oroinya or Oroija, which is seen as 𝗃𝗍𝗋's spiritual mother, you know, recognized the whole thing. And, you know, it ended up being a very happy ending. But some of the greatest examples of dream interpretation and work and within the literature of Ifa is from women, right? Just being more emotional, being more nurturing, being more in touch with their spiritual selves. It's very easy for them to delve into that. Not that, you know, brothers can't, but it takes us a little more work because, you know, men by nature, we're very tangible. We're like, okay, knife, steak, eat. You know, so with them, it's a whole different nuance. And when you look at dreams are, you know, they have elements that if you're just trying to go from A to Z, you're gonna miss so many things in between. So they have that predisposition, but you know, it's a beautiful concept. It's definitely something that's real. I think as we delve more now into the future and people wanting to delve more into spirituality rather than religion. The first spirituality is of self. Ifa is based on ancestor worship, right? But a huge part of self is also our subconscious, dreams, rest. It really makes reference to the importance of rest as well. And the old Yorubas, they I've read and spoken to some that when they would have an issue, they would fall asleep. Like when they needed quick guidance or any of these different things, they would take a nap. And they would call upon their ancestors and stuff like that to come to them in their dreams to give them clarity. I'm trying to remember, in Black Panther, they would do that, right? They would cover them in the leaves and stuff like that?
Yeah, and they would take them to the astral plane.
That's it, dog. That's it. That movie's so well made. You know, God bless the dead, Chadwick, man. They did a great job. Forrest is up in there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Boru and you know, those are all Yoruba African concepts, like, you know, sleeping on the floor as well. You want to have some wild dreams, sleep on the floor, because that's where Egungun is, you know, all these different things, like being in direct contact with our ancestors. You know, over there's a spiritual advantage where the floors in some huts are dirt, where you sleep right on it, you know, or the 𝗃𝗃𝗃, or the actual, you know, the mat and whatnot. All of these are spiritually charged items, you know, even without ceremony, just based on what they're composed of. So, yeah, you'll definitely have some intense ones there. But dreams have changed my life, you know, and kind of looking back on my Odu and things like that, it made perfect sense. But it's something that we can all tap into and benefit from. And that's just our experience. So be sure to let us know about yours. And, you know, what do you think, Phil?
I love it. I mean, this is something that is I always question, because, you know, my dreams are so crazy sometimes, and so I just say sometimes they don't make any sense, you know.
Yeah,
but
try to dress in white and things like that. I mean, the owner of dreams is 𝗃𝗶𝗸𝗲. He's literally the one who constructs them, right? So dressing in white cloth and things like that to go to bed, or having white sheets and whatnot, can help clarify dreams as well if you're really trying to get some confirmations. Getting a full night's rest, of course. But actually, our most vivid dreams happen right before we wake up. Right? Whatever that, I don't think that's REM at that moment. I forgot what stage it is. I really wish I would have gotten my degree in psychology like I wanted to.
You ever had those dreams where they're like really good, you try to go back to sleep and like continue the dream, but then it actually happens where you continue your dream?
Well, yeah, man, life has been pretty dreamlike, man. I tell you, man, I really don't ask for much, man. I have a loving wife and some good kids, man. So yeah, life has been a dream since Ifa, man.
It was all a dream.
And that's really straight up, man. Shout out to Big. But that's really all we're trying to do is bring that to our conscious experience, man. If you have to fall asleep to be happy, we have to find more reasons to be awake, family. So always remember that, you know, all we're trying to do is construct what we're seeing when we sleep while we're awake.
Somebody clip that, please, what Joseph just said, because that means no, for real. If you're still watching this, someone clip that in the comment, please. That's a really good quote. Yeah. We're gonna put it on the shirt.
We just be coming up with random greatness, man.
But guess what, man?
Oh, please. Yes.
It's that time. Time to show some love and respect to the people who show love and respect to the channel.
Love it.
I know we kicked off this episode right away talking about the dreams, but if you guys haven't remembered, you can join our membership program.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's real simple. There's a little button right under this video. Just says join our membership. We got 3 separate tiers, each tier offering its own separate perks, whether it's extra shows, discounts on merch, early releases on podcasts. You guys got some stuff happening in Atlanta, New York coming up this year.
Absolutely. The workshops, guys, get in there. Limited space is available. Be on the lookout for the specials we have going on from time to time to be able to get your seat. Yep. But please take advantage of it. We're going to have so much fun. Group divination, herbs, egung, great time to network and meet each other within community in the same space. Can't wait.
Yep. And a part of being a member of our community here, you guys get shout outs.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to give a shout out to the people who have just recently rejoined. So these are members who have joined in the past.
Welcome back.
Maybe took a little break, but have come back.
Oh, it's real then. If you came back, it's real.
Yep. So we got Ray Valentine. He's a premium super fan.
Hey, Ray.
He just rejoined, but been a total of 23 months.
Thank you.
We got Illuma Candles. They are a supporter.
Very nice.
They just rejoined. They've been a total of about 2 months.
Nice.
We got Stacks Get Back.
Okay.
I like that name. They're a supporter. They just rejoined 2 days ago, but they've been around 8 months.
Stacked up.
Yeah, we got Wolf, 3497. They're a premium super fan. They just rejoined about 5 days ago, but they've been a member for about a year.
Welcome back to the pack.
We got Olivia Frazier. They are a supporter. They just rejoined about 5 days ago, but they've been a member for about 7 months.
Wow.
We got JJ2 Live.
Right.
A VIP member here. They rejoined about 7 days ago, and
live.
They've been a member for about 7 months.
Love it.
And then rounding out, we got Nikki Brown, supporter. They just rejoined about 7 days ago, and they are a member for about 2 months.
Well, thank you very much, Mrs. Brown, and thanks to all of our members. You're the best part of Our Roots podcast. And if you know anyone that could benefit from the membership program, please be sure to share that link so they can get in there. A couple closing thoughts before we disconnect. Well, 𝗃𝗃𝗃candlesandmore.com is up and running for all your spiritual service needs and products. We do ship. If you can't catch us here on video on YouTube, be sure to listen to us on all the major platforms like Apple, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. A big thank you from all of us here at Our Roots Podcast family. And until next time, see the light.
Baba Joseph showed the path today. Baba knows the way, we follow the signs. He walks with the 𝘃𝗶𝗱𝗏 through sacred lines. He speaks with the ancients, he honors the drum. He carries the wisdom where we all come from.